First question to Ankur. You were pursuing your PhD in astrophysicist in US, and you drop out and came to India. How come? What was the thinking behind it?
The thinking was very simple, yeah, Nishant. It was the fact that I realized what I was doing in life was something that I was good at, but it didn't make me happy. And
Interesting.
it was for the first time it struck me that what you're good at and what makes you happy could be two very different things.
Yeah.
So I had these two choices: one to go after what I was already doing, and because I was good at it, it would give me all the things that society calls success, but I maybe won't be happy doing it. Or two was pursue whatever happiness was. So in that moment of craziness, I decided to drop out of my PhD, come back to India. Wisest decision I've made.
Great. So, but I get this question actually from a lot of people where they say they know what they don't want to do, but a lot of time they don't know what they want to do actually. People know what they don't want to do. So, how do you decide basically at that moment when you were successful and you were kind of pursuing your dreams, but your dreams change in between, right? How did you figured out, ki, okay, now this is what's gonna be the new dream for me?
I did, yeah, and I think it's a fallacy for people to think that the answers are very clear before they take the decisions. I don't think anyone on earth can tell you whether the decision you're making is the right one or not before you make the decision. But the amount of effort and time and agony that we spend on trying to find the right decision in life is just baffling for me. So I think it's far more important for you to have a very strong conviction around what you don't want to do or what you would much rather not do, and then go out in that pursuit and that journey of exploring what it could be. And um, and if you just imagine what is the worst thing that can happen if you were to embark on that journey and be comfortable with that worst case happening, you suddenly get a lot of moral courage within that just holds you through. So I'd always say stop looking for the right decision because you're never going to find it before you take one. Look for the wrong decisions that you've made, learn from them, know what you don't want to be doing, and then go out on a pursuit. We Life is a lot more about exploring than reaching a destination.
So it's about hit and trial and then kind of reaching to where you want to be.
100%. If there's anyone on earth who says I got it in the first go, show me that person and I'll show you a liar.
So let's take from Shraddha. So I think you also had some similar story, right? You left your job in CNBC and started Yourstory.
Yeah.
What was the thinking behind that? Because at that time, startup scene in India was very early. How
Yeah.
did you take that call?
Yeah, sometimes now, if you ask me, I think one has to just, what Ankur said. Maybe I'll add to that, is that one has to keep realizing with time that how dumb were you to take that call so early, and sometimes it's so important to be delusional, and sometimes it's so important to not know all the answers, because if I knew that it's going to be tough and it's going to be like 13 years of just doing the same thing, and initial years so hard, then you wouldn't take that call. And it's so important not to know everything and be comfortable with ambiguity, uncertainty, and be mad, a little mad to do that. And no decision is taken overnight. I think again, decisions stay with you, right? Like this, something to do in this. I was just thinking for like 1 year, and then one day you realize that you can't deal with your own self because you're always confused. You really want to do, you're not putting your heart to your job, and then one day you just think कि चलो डूब जाते हैं, और और फिर डूब जाना इज इम्पोर्टेंट, फिर क्योंकि डूब जाने में फिर ब्रीदिंग प्रॉब्लम होता है, एंड यू थिंक यू गोइंग टू डाई, एंड समवेयर वी आर रेजिलिएंट और सर्वाइव, एंड देन यू सर्वाइव, and so yeah, to answer your question, I think I'm very comfortable with ambiguity, uncertainty. I think I'm okay, and I'm somewhere being okay with that, and life teaches you to be okay with that, because life doesn't have clear answers for anything. Yeah, so I took that, and it's 13 years now of doing the same thing.
Great. Uh, and a lot of people think that having a safety net probably helps you kind of take more risk in life. How do you see that people building that kind of safety net in their lives?
Ask
Shraddha?
Ankur this question. Oh, you're asking me. It's such a bad question to ask because you are Groww platform. It's about growing money and investments. But again, see, the thing is, I didn't, and I'm sure for many people and everyone watching, one of the things is that, we get that comfort ki safety net hai, but life में safety net hai ही नहीं. And I always go back to हम कहाँ से आए थे, right? Like I've come from Bihar. I took a train to go to Delhi, got admission in Stephens. For me, there was nothing. And somewhere when we get all these money and अच्छे कपड़े हो जाते हैं और ये सब job अच्छा हो जाता है, then it actually brings a safety net, which also you realize with life that there is so much of uncertainty. And very closely I've seen that it's not that money can do any wonders, and there was no sense of safety net. और पता है कभी पैसे के बारे में safety net के बारे में सोचे नहीं, because I think the more you think about it, the more it limits you,
Yeah.
right? And today also, मेरा एक दिन कहीं laptop पानी में गिर गया था, and everyone was like, oh my god. And now of course the cloud thing is there and everything, and I was just thinking कि क्या होगा, मतलब खुद नहीं गिरी ना, laptop गिर, what is there to lose? Because I always think about, sorry, in a discussion about money, about death, right? We are going to any moment, and this pandemic has brought it close that we're just going to leave everything behind. तो फिर किस बात का सेफ्टी नेट, मतलब क्या है,
Makes
इतना
sense.
बड़ा फ्रॉड है जो कि हम लोग को keeps us chained to being industrial workers, I feel.
It completely makes sense actually. I come from a small town as well, in Punjab, and I didn't have any safety net. One day, I think I met incredible people and started Grow. I think having right people in your life is more important probably than having safety net in your life.
Yeah.
Uh, Ankur, one question from you, that what is that biggest investment that you think you have done in yourself, with not financial, but more in developing yourself, that you would like to tell others that they should also do?
Yeah, I also want to hear this from Ankur.
I don't have one here because I don't know which is that one thing that has led to everything. I'm a very habits person. So जिंदगी में बहुत जल्दी thankfully एक clarity आ गई थी कि it's useless to determine goals and targets because you think you are capable of deciding one, and then life hits you hard, mocks you and laughs at you, saying that you think you have a goal, but I have something else for you. So you commit yourself to habits, and I'm absolutely that person. And when I came back from the US, dropping out my PhD, जिंदगी में वही दो राहें थी कि plan A didn't work, तो plan B, फिर plan C, फिर plan D, or screw all plans and just decide on a way of living. So there are a few habits that help me a lot, and some of them are very standard. So I read every day, I meditate every day, I work out every day, I get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep every day. But there are some very strange habits that have personally for me just opened up opportunities like I never imagined before. For instance, I read all my emails. And it is unbelievable how much that has helped me because you never know where the next opportunity is coming from. As someone wisely said, great opportunities do not come with the subject line great opportunities. They just come. So you have to constantly be open to that. I meet someone new that I do not know of before every week. And it's random.
Amazing.
It could be someone who's written in an email, it's someone that I meet on Instagram or on YouTube or so on and so forth. And it's fascinating how many new adventures I've embarked on just because of this habit that I've been doing for the last several years. But I think the biggest one that helps me a lot is I'm constantly thinking in questions. I despise solutions. Not that I don't get to one, but I think it's the curse of intelligence to be seeking solutions. क्योंकि हर एक smart इंसान बोलता है कि जल्दी से जैसी problem आई है ना solution निकालो. But I love to just submerge myself in questions. So I keep writing questions and questions and questions and questions about whatever context situation I am in or something that I have to think about. And that journey of writing and thinking in questions just opens up so many more questions and thus ultimately takes me to a solution. And I am a firm believer that if you want to get to a solution, don't look for the solution. Ask the right questions, and the questions will take you to the solution. That, I think, has been the biggest investment that I have made, and it's something that I've been doing for a long while, and I cannot even overemphasize how it's helped.
Yeah, I completely agree. Actually, we having right questions is where you get the right solutions as well. If you ask wrong questions, whatever solution is doesn't even matter. And I think another thing that I got from your conversation is that it's important you should write it down first, because if you have too many questions in your mind, it will not help you sleep well. So,
Writing is such an underrated thing. It is such an underrated thing,
yeah,
and again,
completely.
yeah. Go on.
So, Shraddha, what do you think that person in their 20s and 30s should invest in themselves or inculcate the habits that Ankur talk about, that you follow, that you think everybody should also follow?
First I have to say that what Ankur said in terms of reading all emails, we should, hats off to him, because I think it sounds very easy thing to do, but he's doing this. I think it's also a mark of respect to
Yeah,
everything that comes in your inbox. And the second thing, when he said that, it reminded me, Ankur, what you said is Rilke's quote, no, live your life in questions, then someday finally you might stumble into some answer. So it's beautiful what he's doing. I don't think so one can say what people in their 20s or 30s should do, but I wish some things that we were told in our schooling system, अब पता नहीं अभी चेंज हुआ है या नहीं. I wish we were told to take care of ourselves in terms of physical fitness. PT classes होती थी, उसके बाद college messes us up, and then we just then we wait for later in life to start taking care of ourselves. I would just say that physical activity on an everyday basis is very, very important, because the more I have lived and the more hectic, life keeps on getting hectic and
yeah,
depressing and tragic, and as Buddhism says, life is suffering. So I think taking care of your, I wish we were just told, just brushing the teeth, that every day for at least half an hour, take care of yourself physically. And I would say that it doesn't, in your 20s, it's the best time to ignore it, because you can get drunk till late in the night and still get up in the morning, early morning, and do, and you'd say that, hey, 3 nights I did back to back night outs, and all those are very cool things to say, but all these hits you much later, those habits. So I would say that is very important. And second thing is that we have to be, like, what Ankur said, it's be very selfish, because we were taught how to educate ourselves and get the degrees, but learning is very important. And मुझे लगता है हम लोग travel नहीं कर सकते, we can't go to Venice and Berlin and go and see the best museums or anything, but we can live our lives in books. And it's so important these days when I meet people and they say, oh, books, and they start laughing. I don't read anything, and it's so cool not to read, but I just think that you're missing life, because if you have to experience the depth and the nuance of life, then it's so important to read. And third, I would say that I believe in the, now we're talking about money and investments, I think there's a huge compounding effect of being nice to people. So
yeah.
agar agenda nahi bhi hai kisi ke sath in your 20s, because you think you are the king of the castles or whatever, kisi ke sath koi bhi agenda nahi hai, koi kuch de bhi nahi sakta hai, then be nice. Give your kindness, give your time, give your attention, and you will not believe that sometimes people don't need anything from you. They just
Yeah.
need a genuine smile or a genuine, you're genuinely with them. And if you can do that, you'll be amazed with this miracle of life, that life comes back, and somewhere these people come back, and someone else comes back, and the way you get it. So I'll just say that, don't think I have money to give. जो भी है, बस अपना attention भी अगर लोगों को दे सकते हैं, so just do that in your 20s, 30s, 40s. मतलब एकदम करोड़पति, अरबपति रहोगे life में, otherwise, in terms of happiness and peace.
Yeah, I think just add to that what Shraddha was just saying. I have seen. I remember there was in college there was this alumni meet, and one of my senior told me that best way to do networking is help someone in need. So the day you help that person in need once, he will be your friend or your mentor forever, right? So I completely agree. We helping someone in need, or even being nice to people when they need you will build you a network or something, and you can be a billionaire or a millionaire anytime in the future. So it's very important to be nice to people. It's very important to help whenever people need you, and it will definitely helps you in future. Great. I think it was a great insight that Shraddha that you gave us. Uh, I think another thing that I got from this conversation is that uh, either reading or spending time in learning things. It can be books, it can be even these days people spend a lot of time on YouTube and a lot of other places where they get a lot of learning, which, for example, if you can't visit to Venice, you can go and visit to Venice on YouTube as well, right? So there are a lot of opportunities which technology is giving people, which they can use to kind of learn more things by not spending too much money as well, which I think people should definitely do.
Ishan,
So,
I remembered
yeah,
something I want to tell for your audience, young people. So I'd met Mr. Tata last year at his house, and he's 89 years old. And then this is for young people. See what makes some people stand out. I said, Mr. Tata, do you want to do something, anything? Then he said, I want to, one of the things I miss and I want to learn and make sure I learn is piano. And at the age of 89, you're saying, matlab 89, 90, you're saying that piano सीखना है और अभी सीखना है. And that to me is an attitude. ना तो वो
yeah,
शुरू से रहता है तो then you have your own joy. Yeah. So yeah, so
completely
maybe they'll
makes sense.
hear not us, but Mr. Tata, so maybe it will stay in the mind. So I thought, yeah.
Great, great. Ankur, another question to you, that technology is changing lives today, right? We were talking about YouTube and stuff. How do you think it does it kind of kill jobs as well at the same time? There's a lot of people who think, okay, in long term, everything will be automated. What will I do then?
That's a big question, Yarishan, and a very important one, because the truth is anything that can be consumed and boiled down to an algorithm will be boiled down to an algorithm. And there is no doubt about that. And that means all the tasks that are repetitive, all the tasks that are quantifiable, all the tasks that are predictable will eventually get automated. But that also means that it opens up two new opportunities, which is how the world will have to orchestrate itself towards. One is, if there is an algorithm behind the automation and there is a machine behind the automation, someone will have to work with them to make them the
Yeah.
smart machines that they are. Artificial intelligence does not mean that it grows on its own. Someone builds it. And it's a very misunderstood thing कि artificial intelligence are like these Armageddon movies या Matrix पूरा control ले लेगा. None of that. We're far away from that. It is very simply someone training the algorithm, the machine, to become smart, and then it can compute faster than the human mind can. Simple as that. So one is that. Two, then the overemphasis on any role or any job or any function that involves judgment becomes far more important. And that is where I feel humans will spend a lot more time. So what's going to happen, and this is just my prediction, that in the next 20, 30, 40 years, there will be so much of wealth created because of automation and efficiency that wealth will begin to get distributed equally amongst people. I don't think that there will be this inequality that we see, whether it's a minimum support livelihood or anything else that comes in. So there will actually be a lot of boredom that will come in because people will now get money for just existing, not doing anything. And the difference then between the ones who move the world forward and the ones who just keep consuming will be the difference between who applies their judgment to go about doing things that only the human mind can right now. Jobs that require empathy, jobs that require understanding human psychology, jobs that require understanding human emotions, jobs that require the machines to have the capability to, in some way, reflect human decisions. All of those are going to get more and more meaningful. And there will be an ecosystem that will be built around it. So I don't think it's all doomsday as people will make it out to be. But I also feel that it is now going to be even more the prerogative of every individual to upskill themselves. कोई अब स्कूल और कॉलेज नहीं खोलेगा इसके लिए। बहुत क्लियर हो चुका है कि दुनिया इतनी खुली हो गई है कि लोग बोलेंगे कि आपके पास हर एक अपॉर्चुनिटी है जिससे आप कुछ भी नया सीख सकते हैं जब भी आप चाहते हैं। कोई आपको अब सिखाएगा नहीं, क्योंकि हमें खुद ही नहीं पता कि क्या सीखना है। इतनी तेजी से दुनिया बदल रही है, देयर इज नो करिकुलम दैट कैन अडहेयर टू इट। तो आप या तो मिनिमम इनकम लेके आराम से घर पे बैठिए और खुशी से रहिए, या अगर आप लाइफ में ज्यादा कुछ करना चाहते हैं तो अपने आप को स्किल करके go out and create a world that is driven by your judgment and your human nature. So I feel that is going to be the hard career choice that people make in the next 20 years.
So basically what you're saying is self-learning will become the most important task than whatever curriculum and whatever education is teaching us.
The only thing, Ishan, and that's a very important point you make, I feel that the only purpose of school and college from now on should be to teach us how to be a student for life. अगर हमें ना सीखना आता है तो हम कुछ भी सीख सकते हैं। अनफॉर्चुनेटली स्कूल आज की दुनिया में सीखना सिखाता नहीं है, सीखने को मार देता है। It just literally nips it from its bud और मतलब तुम क्या सीखोगे, यही आंसर है, यही सवाल है, इसी के मैच पे तुम्हें नंबर मिलेंगे वरना तुम फेल हो। तो it's like the exact opposite. And I really feel that people are going to live for 100 plus years. They will have multiple careers, they will have multiple lives, they will have multiple avatars, and the only way that people will then be happy and fulfilled is if they completely change themselves every 10 to 20 years. And that is not going to happen through a defined curriculum in a college. It's just going to happen because you have what it takes to become a student whenever you have to, whenever you need to.
Makes sense. So, question to you, Shradha. There are you interact with a lot of tech companies, a lot of founders. How do you see that what Ankur is saying, people are kind of trying to build companies around it. There are people are building startups around it. How are new startups going to help in the changing the scene of learning, basically?
Just talking in terms of EdTech startups or overall startups?
It can be EdTech, it can be attitude, right? In the end of the day, it's what attitude that matters, that everybody should start thinking about learning. And in the end, job creation in the so that people are relevant in long term.
Yeah, so I'll take from what Ankur has said. First of all, Ishan, I want to say that one of the best talks that I had heard on this is what Naval Ravikant said, that, this whole debate that AI is going to take jobs and all that. He said that, it's like the Cassandra effect. And I thought it was very powerful that he said that in our lifetime for the next 50, 100 years, it's, we're going to see pattern AI and we are not going to see general AI. So हमारे दिमाग को कोई नहीं ले सकता है. And what he's saying is that the normal automation हो जाएगा तो अच्छा है, because none of us should do basic job. Today, we are very elitist, but airport पे जाओ अगर, तो जो आपके counter पे who keeps on giving you tickets, right? That's such a back-breaking and nobody should do that work, right? When we are in Maslow hierarchy looking at creative satisfaction and intellectual satisfaction, why should young people do that job or a BPO job? एक तरह से अगर वो jobs जा रहे हैं तो नए jobs आएंगे, and history is proof to that, right? We are here because every time something was taken over, when industrial revolution came, सारे agriculture और जो भी जितने job थे वो चले गए, right? But something new comes, and I think this is going to be a world of creativity, and the more creative brains that you can use. See, today the discussion we are having, someone has built this platform that we are interacting and we are chatting. There are so many, media has completely disintermediated. Today everyone is making money and can do something, sell something. There's so many new things coming, and I think as long as what Ankur said, I believe in that you're constantly questioning and challenging that, am I ready with the headwind which is coming or the tailwind which is coming? Am I ready to deal with both? And what does that mean? It means that constantly upgrading your own? Are you a full stack player in your own body and mind and soul? And can you improve the game in terms of, are you creatively, ready to take on whatever comes? And I think that will be the focus. Are we ready, or are we going to, because we will only, not AI, but we will become redundant if we don't upgrade our own system. And then for that, I would say that startups will play. I am a huge believer that startups are going to define not just the world or whatever, but in India, our growth, and especially in our country where the job is a huge issue. Let's not ignore that every year 20 million people get into the job market, engineers. We have huge job issue in our country. Yes, startups will play a crucial role, and I think it comes back to somewhere two things which we lack as a country. Our productivity, we are not a very productive country. So अगर हमारा productivity ठीक हो तो SME ठीक होगा, सब चीज ठीक होगा, और overall GDP ठीक होगा. So startups which address that productivity issue. And second thing is upgradation of skills. Yes, like Ankur said, of course we have to, and we have to upgrade ourselves, but someone who can enable that in a frictionless manner will create, and of course tech will play a huge role. So yeah, so I think I'm a firm believer that startups will define what will happen in the next few years in our country.
So how do you see, basically there are a lot of job seekers today who wants to join startups, and they want to understand what startups are looking for, right? Well, it's very today there are we new like you said, 2 billion people are coming to job market every day, and there are quite a few startups which are starting up at the same time. How do we kind of match it, that from a job seeker perspective, what should I do so that I can be a asset to a startup in long term?
So many things one can do to be an asset. One of the searches during pandemic, when people were losing jobs, one of the places, and this is for all the engineers, developers, and everyone, you'll not believe that tech jobs India may quadrupled. The need for tech roles, right? Like really grew. And everyone from Zoom and everyone during pandemic is setting up shops. So tomorrow specialized skills will always be in demand. So that is not going anywhere. Of course, today demand is there for data scientists, AI experts and all that. New technologies are constantly coming, right? So wo to rahega, if you are, as long as you're not married कि मैंने ये सीखा है and ये requirement है ये सीख लूंगा. You know what, very important thing he said, lifelong student, right? As long as you're lifelong student, you will be able to Ishan disappeared, I thought, because I was speaking too much. So then you will not be out of job, and then you will have a job. But more importantly, to everyone watching, as long as I don't know if you can hear, is that please don't be a job seeker, be a job creator. We need job creators.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I can now be the host. I have a bunch of questions for you, Shradha. I can now be the host. I remember first seeing you, I think it was 10 plus years back at an event at IIT Delhi. You were on stage. I don't even remember who you were interviewing, and I didn't know of you. And I was like, who is this immensely confident, completely in control lady on stage? And she's like, oh, she's just started up this thing called Yourstory. And of course, it's been fascinating to witness your journey over the last 10 plus years. But you've been at this vantage point where you've actually possibly seen every story that has gone through the Indian startup ecosystem. What do you think has been the biggest positive and biggest negative or not so positive change that you've seen in the ecosystem?
Wow, that's a very good question. One positive, what I see, Ankur, and I'm sure everyone will agree, is there's a lot of confidence and positivity, right? Like now, the startups have become too much of a mainstream, so that is a very big positive, and it's cool, and it's become cool and good to do a startup. So that's a significant change. One negative because of this, I also think is, and personally I don't relate to, and maybe because you could say that हाँ खुद बैठी रही, scale नहीं किया तो इसलिए कह रही है. I don't like that success has become related to money, right? Like it has become like too, मतलब एक धंधा टाइप का हो गया है. That purity has gone कि जो भी सबसे बड़ा हीरो है जो सबसे बड़ा पैसा उठा लेगा. And to me, I don't define success, and we've seen that, right? So many people have raised such money. It's not that is a success, because yeah. So to me, it has become, that is also a challenge with so much of money coming. It's become very tactical in terms of कि पैसा बनाना है, but और बेचना है और ये करना है. So I think that has to slightly tone. We have to tone that down.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, by the way. I think that's a very wise observation.
Just changing the gears here, Ankur, I think I wanted to ask you specifically that do you think MBA today is a good investment?
Yeah. So, look, there are right reasons for doing an MBA and the wrong reasons for doing one. Let me start with the wrong one, because that is what I'm more fascinated by. It is absolutely the wrong reason to do an MBA because your friends are doing it and everyone around you is doing it. It is absolutely the wrong reason to do an MBA because you hate your current job and you feel that the MBA is an escape to a new one. It is absolutely the wrong reason to do an MBA because you think that that is the only way that you can get a salary increment or get the salary that you think you deserve. Because frankly, that is not proven and that is not necessarily going to happen. And it's almost always going to set up expectations that you most likely will not be able to fulfill or you will feel betrayed by. I think the right reasons to do an MBA is, one, think of it like what it is. It's Masters in Business Administration, which means it's going to expose you to a gamut of business tools that you ought to have for your growth. And if you feel that you lack that, it's a great degree, provided it comes from a good place to do. Just an MBA for the tag of it is almost worthless. Please don't spend your money. Go to Groww. Please put that money in nice, happy IPOs and stocks. Compound the shit out of it for the next 20 years. You will thank me for that after 20 years. Don't waste your money there. But if you go to a good school, you will get a network that will set you up for life. Your next set of opportunities will come from this network. It is unbelievable how that works. You will learn so much about yourself outside of class, dealing with very diverse people, managing your time, managing the expectations and the pressures. So that 1 to 2 year program is going to be a very close replica of what eventual life will be once you're out of it. And it's crunched in such a beautiful manner that if you were to navigate through it without losing your mental balance, you will actually learn a lot through that. And personally, I did immensely. And then third, which is the final one, is it does teach you a lot of the fundamentals that get you to think about things in a very different manner. If you're, let's say, a techie and you would love to become, say, a product manager, or you'd love to become maybe even an engineering manager, which does require you to not just know code, but know how to deal with people, know a business side of it, know why pricing is done the way it is, know why Ishan is after the engineering team to ship the bloody product in 2 weeks because there are customers waiting out, knocking doors, or saying that this is what we need. That level, it does not necessarily come from just doing your job and doing it well. You require that holistic view, and an MBA could teach you that. So go for it for the right reasons. It's a great degree if you do that. And that's true for any degree, by the way. But if you go for the wrong reasons or just because the world says that you should do it, it's quite likely that you will not benefit most.
So basically go for the learnings, not for the rat race. Basically, that's the main idea. Got it.
Shradha, so I think anything in life.
That's always true. Shradha, I think Ankur talked about people kind of building a network, right? Can you talk about people around you that helped you in your successes and how, or even in some cases, failures as well?
Helped me in my failures.
Or learnings, we can say.
Who all helped you in your failures, Shradha? Who all helped you fail? We would love to know that.
But Ishan, it's a very good question, and because we sometimes, think that the successes to hai nahi, but somewhere, one of the things is that when we do well, then we think that हमने किया है, हमने पहाड़ तोड़ा है, हमने उखाड़ा है. But the thing is that there's so many people who come and help you. But one of the things I want to say before this, there's a very nice quote these days I've become very big fan of. एक बहुत simple quote है, what you can see, you can be. So when we get exposed to seeing something, we can be. आज एक बहुत अच्छा dress पहनी हूँ because I saw this, then I could buy this. अगर ये नहीं पता चलता तो नहीं. So similarly, I think people have come and shown me things and my faults and weaknesses and where one could learn, and I could see, then I could change. And there have been so many people. It would be unfair to say कुछ लोगों का नाम, because today so many people have played a role, and also people who've been very negative and the naysayers. I also have huge gratitude for them. अगर वो नहीं रहते ना तो सो जाती मैं. तब ये आप जो है ना 13 साल तक खड़े हैं, वो खड़े रहेंगे वाली बातें नहीं होती. So I don't want to love them and kiss them and hug them because they have been so negative that नहीं चलेगा. But there is a huge sense of gratitude for mentors, for people who have come and helped me. I can go on with the list of people across who have helped, investors, everyone, right? Like everyone जो कहा है कि चलो कितने लोग का नाम ले, मतलब 13 साल में कितने लोग हैं who have been very, very helpful. But yes, to answer your question, अगर लोग नहीं help करते तो आदमी यहाँ तक नहीं पहुँचता. So people have helped me a lot. I've been very kind. But last but not the least, I always say entrepreneurs and startups. क्योंकि जब मैंने शुरू किया था तो मैं भी, I was no one, right? Like now also, but at that time definitely not. But startups थे कि stories सुनाते थे और मैं सुनती थी. उसमें से बहुत सारे unicorns हो गए और popcorns हो गए और इतने बड़े हो गए. उन्होंने support किया. They believed and they stood. So I'm very thankful. Yeah.
So how did you, did anybody, or is any story around how the day that you said, okay, now I'll do Yourstory versus this, was it a person that influenced you, or was it something that specifically incident that happened that influenced you?
Yeah, so there was a very big entrepreneur. I don't want to name him. He's from not the startup world, but he's from the corporate world. क्या कहूँ, listed है company. So his company was getting listed in 2006-7. Very, very, very popular in Bombay. And his story was supposed to come on CNBC. Didn't come, and I saw him cry because for him it was very important. उसकी listing का कुछ था, और उस दिन Reliance की भी listing हुई थी. मतलब there's so many backstories to every story. And there's so many things that leads to something, and then that मेरे suddenly मुझे लगा that he's such a big guy, he's such a big deal, but his stories के लिए कितनी personal है. It's so personal. It's so him. It's his soul. His heart is crying. He's breaking. Suddenly you look up to someone who's a very strong character, and that, you guys did wrong. That because I was not big enough and I was not as powerful a listing, तो मेरा आवाज नहीं है क्योंकि मेरे लिए ज्यादा मेहनत लगा. And I thought that ये तो चलो मैस्लो में थोड़ा आगे तो इसका दिल. And for him it's so powerful to tell his story, and then there were so many, and then you said that चलो, I didn't think कि पैसा बनेगा, कुछ होगा, कुछ करेंगे, but story तो सुनाएंगे, करेंगे, लिखेंगे जिसके बारे में कोई नहीं लिख रहा है. And for so many years I kept on writing. Everyone used to say who will read this story, but somewhere they needed to be heard, and that's how I started.
Makes sense. I think it's very inspiring actually. You kind of try to help people kind of tell their story online, at least, if not in the TV.
Yeah.
Ankur, just again kind of switching gear again to financial investments, right? So what do you think is the biggest mistake in financial investments that you made?
I'm curious to hear the answer.
The biggest mistake that you make in financial investing?
Yes. That you would have made in the past.
sometime last year. So I turned 40 last year, and I was reflecting on the last 40 years and every screw up that I've made. And I wrote this thread, which is mistakes I made with my money. वो thread इतनी popular हो गई that there was a lot of people who said, oh, "Thank God for saying this because I make the same mistakes." And I felt like I was a doofus. So I have a whole host of mistakes that I have made. I think I can walk very quickly through some of them. Number one is you invest in your cocoon. And what I mean by that, and Shradha may relate to this, my cocoon for the last 11 years has been the startup world. So for me, I was like, you know what? I am the smartest person on earth. And there are other doofuses who don't see the world that I see. So मेरा पूरा पैसा ना startups में जाएगा. And I'm going to be this investor and angels and giving it to the Ishans of the world and the Ankurs of the world and everyone else. And what it did was essentially I was so naive in thinking that the potential probability of mega success is far greater than the actual returns you get, plus the liquidity that you have to maintain. So when I actually went through a really hard time, which was about 2 years back as a founder, I realized that I was a millionaire on paper because I had made these mega investments, including in my own startup where I put in a bunch of money, but I had zero liquidity. I literally had no money on if I wanted to. All that I had was insurance. So मेरे मरने के बाद ही कुछ पैसा generate होता, or I had to go and get all these liquidations done, which frankly doesn't matter. And this investing in your cocoon is such a big thing because your parents will tell you FD, 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 FD because that's the cocoon you're in. Your uncle will tell you wo wala stock because that's the cocoon you're in. Your friends will tell you, "Arey tum gadhe ho, crypto is the only shit that exists, so that is the cocoon you're in." And the wise investors, I now realize, are the ones who vehemently go outside of their cocoon to actually see what the world is about. And that is so powerful. Like it requires a completely different level of humility and objectivity to get to that point. I think that is the biggest mistake that I've made. Just staying in my cocoon for far too long and not appreciating the world for what it had to. And सब कुछ पता है ना, compounding सब पता है, इतना थोड़ी बहुत बुद्धि तो है. But it's just this absolute lack of appreciation for what the broader world is because तुम्हें लगता है कि तुम ही start हो और बाकी सब बने.
So basically, what you're trying to say is, anyways, you're investing in your cocoon, but try to invest outside of your cocoon as well, because you never know which you don't know. Great answer. And Shraddha, from your side, if you have to kind of go back in time, 10 years, 15 years, what is one thing that you would change in your life or in your journey, in your story, that would have helped you today?
Yeah.
I love this question.
Go back in time. I don't know, Ishan. I would say I wish I had, and I don't know. It can't be taught. I wish I had thicker skin. Yeah. Like I wish I had thick skin. I wish I knew that what resilience long term innings mean. मुझे लगा आएंगे जैसे होता है ना स्टॉक मार्केट में, आएंगे और छक्का लगाएंगे. पता नहीं कि फील्डिंग करते रहना पड़ेगा इतने साल. And but to answer your question, nothing I would like to change, because like I said, every mistake, every naysayer, every fall has made me stronger, has made your story stronger. I like all my scratches, I like all my scars, because who would I be without it? मतलब बहुत perfect picture perfect मजा नहीं आता है ना, थोड़ा तो मतलब थोड़ा तो दर्द है. अगर दर्द है तभी तो इंसान और कंपनी अच्छा बना है ना. सो आई वुड से टू एवरीवन दैट गिरना जरूरी है, और बहुत गिरी हूँ और बहुत ज्यादा गिरी हूँ. बट द थिंग इज दैट मजा आ जाए क्योंकि आई कैन एंजॉय कि खड़ी हूँ. समझ रहे हो, अगर खड़ी रहती तो फिर बोर हो जाती ना. गिर के भी खड़ी हूँ, इन दैट्स द फन. सो आई वुडंट लाइक टू चेंज एनीथिंग. या only thing is I बार वही गलतियां नहीं किया है. So that is the only thing. So nothing.
So basically, the failures is what made you, not the successes, effectively,
Absolutely. The
and that is
what
real,
your
basically.
outcomes makes you, right? I think Ankur, everyone, all entrepreneurs will relate to, right?
Completely makes sense.
I think
Great.
the one thing that I would add, and then Shraddha is being very modest when she says this, but it's important to take this away. We are falsely led to believe that failure is a stepping stone to success. But that is wrong because everyone in the world fails, but not everyone succeeds. तो कुछ तो और है failure और success के दरमियान which makes it happen. And I feel that that is reflection.
Love
Yeah.
If you
it.
just fail and you're like, oh shit, मैं fail हो गई, oh shit, मुझसे नहीं हो पाया, oh चलो फिर से fight मारेंगे, then that's pointless because everyone goes through that. But only when you sit and pause and you reflect, and that helps me like questions वाला same, literally like क्यों हुआ, क्या हुआ, मुझे ऐसा क्या नहीं पता था जो आज पता है, मुझे ऐसा क्या उस समय लगता था जो आज मुझे पता गलत है. All of that then helps you
Yeah.
point towards success hopefully. But failure by itself is not going to, like, don't make it cool ki oh हाँ मैं fail हो गया and that's why I'm going to be like it's like वो dropout वाली चीज. When I tell people that I'm a PhD dropout, everyone are like अरे वाह because everyone successful has dropped out of something in life, so this must be so cool. ऐसे नहीं होता भाई. मतलब there are enough and more
I
dropouts in this
agree
world
to
who
what
never
you
make
said.
it.
Reflection is very true. With reflection is very important. But what I'm saying is that the point is कि मैदान में खड़े रहना. मत समझ रहे हो, मैदान में खड़े रहने से ही सीख लेते. फील्ड में बैठेंगे नहीं, मतलब बैठना नहीं. अगर एंटर फील्ड में मिला है तो खड़े रहेंगे, मतलब फील्डिंग करना है, बैटिंग करना है, पानी पिलाना है दूसरे को, सब करेंगे बट खड़े रहेंगे. बिकॉज यू नो वंस यू गेट ऑन द बेंच, that's not a good feeling, and sometimes you don't know that standing will take many years, but you keep on standing. Yeah.
Completely agree. I think persistence is also very important. If you don't persist, you don't know if you were just about to hit the sixer, right? If you are not on the field, you are not on the field anymore. That's the end of it. Great. I think we are almost about end the session. Thanks, Ankur. Thanks, Shraddha, for taking out the time for sharing your insights with our audience. Many of them actually shared questions, but we were not able to take it up. Definitely, we'll probably take it offline. Thanks, everyone, for joining here. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
All the
thank you
best.
Shraddha, always a pleasure.
All the best, Ishan, to the Grow and to this event. Thank you, and thanks, Ankur. Bye. See you.
Thank you, Shraddha. Bye.
Bye.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing. Please read the risk disclosure documents carefully before investing in equity shares, derivatives, mutual fund, and or other instruments traded on the stock exchanges.